Hey. How's the band? Right? Man, all right. So I wrote some different notes on this piece of paper, and I forgot to make it font 30, so even with my glasses, it happened. First of all, I just want to tell you, I'm amazed. I'm already getting emails from those of you who signed up for Team 180. That's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. And for those of you who haven't, I started a special novena to St. Mother Teresa that she will haunt you every time you buy Starbucks coffee. Just as you grab it, you're going to hear, shame. But no pressure. Let's move on. Can I get a little more of this in the monitors? Or we're afraid of it feedbacking, right? The feedback, sorry, bro. All right. So I've had so much fun being here. We've been talking. It's great being with youth, but it's so fun when you hang with adults who've got an attention span longer than 30 seconds. It's really been a blessing. It's been wonderful. And they get your jokes. You know, you're talking about Fonzie, and the kids are like, who? You guys don't know who Fonz is? Oh, man, I just dated myself even with you guys. Okay, I'm the oldest person in the house. Hey, yeah, all right. So I'm just going to walk you through my journey just a little bit here, and we're going to talk about Jesus. With the men, we talked about having a deeper relationship with the Father, and then we did the family thing, and now we're hitting the Jesus piece. And this was instrumental to me. And I think I told everybody before, I started as a borderline atheist who went into Buddhism, Hinduism, the whole thing, and then became Catholic. I never thought I'd become Catholic. I've had friends become believers in Jesus for the fact that I do this now, because they know me from my past. They're like, there's a God. The fact that I'm here. You see, when my religion's, it started out, now not all churches are like this, but I went to a Southern Baptist church. My mom brought me there. My dad never went. He would sit on the couch, and she would drag my brother Michael, myself, and I couldn't stand it. We had to wear a suit and a big fat tie, and I'm not saying you shouldn't now, but as a little kid, I'm 11 years old, and I'm going to this church, and our services were 2 to 3 hours long. And a church about the size of this stage, and they had packed 400 people in there, and it was so hot, and all we had were ceiling fans that blew everybody's BO back down on top of us. And I'm sitting there next to my brother, and I'm like, and it was horrible. And what was crazy is this was honestly you know what I learned to do at church as a kid? Gamble. Here's how. This is true. There was a gentleman who sat in front of us all the time, really big guy, bald head. My brother would sit here and we'd bring quarters. This is true. I'm not making this up. So it'd be Mom, my brother Mike, and myself. And it was so hot in there that beads of sweat would start to form on his head. And they would and we'd actually place bets on the beads of sweat coming down to hit his neck. And I'm like, go, go, go. And I'm like, yeah. My mom's like, praise God. Yeah. We're like, yeah. So boring. But what I really learned in this church was that Jesus was mean and God was scary. We had one of these pastors. I have to be careful. I'm not sure if you have to be careful about language here. Like in Haiti, we say if somebody's black, we say black guy, and white, we say white guy. So no offense, but we had a really skinny white guy preacher who wanted to be a Southern Baptist preacher, so he'd practice, and it just didn't work. It's like a dad trying to be hip and cool with his kids. And so he would walk around, and I'd watch him at first, and he would go like this. He'd go, oh, and he's working himself up, and everybody's sitting there, and the band's there, and the people would start clapping, getting him warm up, and he'd be like, oh, yeah, yeah. And then he'd say things, he'd throw words out to try to elicit a response from everybody, so he'd be like this. Ooh, the Lord loves. No. The Lord gives. And somebody go, amen. He'd be like, gives. They like that. Okay. the Lord gives. And they'd be like, yes, he gives. And the Lord gives. And I'm sitting there, and he'd be like this, the Lord gave a gift you need to receive so you can have the gift he gave so you can give it to others who need to receive the gift. And everybody's like, yeah. And I'm like, he didn't say anything. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, everybody's applauding. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And he was one of these crazy guys, like everybody's going to hell except for 5 people. All the Jewish people are going to hell. And I'm like, I'm so glad I'm not Jewish. Oh, scared. And like, God's angry. If a tsunami comes, it's because they're all sinners, wipe them all out. And he's like, most of you won't even go to heaven. And then he'd pass the plate and ask for tips after he told us we're all going to hell. And I'm like, I could do this gig. This is pretty cool. This is pretty good. This is easy, man. You just kind of say things, and then he'd get all fired up, and he'd be like, the Lord gave. People go, I'll give. The Lord gave. And then all of a sudden the drummer would go, and the band, I will give to the Lord. And he's doing backflips, and everybody's like, yeah. I'm sitting there. My mom went for the music, not his teachings about everybody going to hell, but he scared me. And I was sitting there, and I finally just got fed up. I was just like, I'm so sick of this. And he also didn't like me because I always asked him questions, and he hated it. I'd be like, well, if God exists, who made God? Because everything needs a cause. So obviously God needed a cause. Who caused cause? And that cause would have to be greater than God. I'm 11 because I was reading this stuff, and I had friends who would want me to trip him up. And he'd be like, well, we'll talk about that later. And I'm like, and how do you know Jesus really rose from the dead? And in the Bible, by the way, that was written by a bunch of other people too. And you're quoting from a book that's 2,000 years old. And he's like, you're too young to be asking these questions. Like, apparently not, because I'm asking these questions right now, but you just can't answer them. So my mom was like, shh, sit down. So he didn't like me. So finally the music's getting loud. And I was just like, I'm done with this. God's mean, he's cruel, and we have to give money to hear about it. So as the band's playing, I shouted, it's not a really, it's a swear, but I went, what the H-E-double hockey sticks? But the band was so loud, it was just gonna blend in. But have you ever been at a party and you're screaming, the music stops and you're screaming? Like, I love you. Oh. Right at that moment, I went, what the hell? And my mom's like, oh. He looks at me, my mom's like, quiet, do you wanna go to hell? I'm like, I'm already there. This can't be any worse. And so I was escorted out, and we went home, and I was sitting in our station wagon, and my mom's driving home, my brother's in the front seat, I'm in the seat of shame with my back. There used to be a car for young people called a station wagon. It had one seat that faced backward for everybody who likes to throw up every 13 minutes. And my mom goes, what's the matter with you? And I go, Mom, I've decided something. She goes, what's that? And I go, I don't even want to go to heaven. She's like, what? Get in the other seat. Come out of the shame. And I sat in the next seat, and she goes, what? And I said, I don't even want to go to heaven. She's like, why? And I go, I pictured heaven being like that church service forever. Could you imagine? Yeah, all right, well, kumbaya, harp. And I'm like, oh, man, walking in. Down below, it's like, you're like, oh, it's a party down there. All right, I'll go here. I didn't want to go. Mom's like, why? And I said, because Jesus is mean. She's like, no, he's not. He's loving. And I'm like, not according to him. She goes, honestly, I didn't even think you were paying attention. I just like the music. I've got a gift for you when we get home. We get home, and I'm thinking she's got a video game for me because I've been asking for one. I'm so excited. And I'm like, come on, video game. Back then, we only had one video game. It was called Pong. Remember that bad boy? You have a knob here, and a paddle here, and a square ball because the graphics were awesome. And it'd be like, boop, 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 boop. Like, look at the graphics. And if you want to play soccer, you got 2 paddles. Killer. That's not what my mom gave me. She gave me a teen Bible. She said, go in your room and read this. That's what every kid wants to do after church. Go into your room and start reading about Jesus. And she goes, I underlined some passages. Just take a couple minutes. Please go in there. And I went. Here's why. I was really afraid of something when I was a kid. I was terrified of dying. Death scared me. I went to my grandfather's funeral. It was the first time I ever saw a dead person, and it horrified me. All the adults were crying, sobbing. Remember I told you I have a brother who picked on me my whole life? I'll never forget this. I'm standing here. I see the outline of my grandfather's face in the casket, and I'm like, I'm not going up there. I'm not going up there. And my brother comes over to me, and he puts his arms around me with one arm like this. And I'm like, what do you want? Because usually if he's going to do that, he's going to hurt me. And I go, what do you want? And he goes, you're all going to think this is horrible. Okay, he goes, it's kind of weird seeing Gramps dead, right? And I'm like, dude, I'm freaked out. He's like, I know. And he goes, just think, man, they're going to close that casket, put him in the ground, and his body's going to rot into nothing. And I'm like, I know. And he goes, just think, one day that's going to happen to you. We'll see you. And I was like, fear, death, scared me. I'm like, I'm going to die. So I was like, maybe I should read this Bible a little bit because I'm going to die. And my mom, she underlined this passage, and I read it, and I just started laughing out loud. It's the story of where Jesus walks on the water. And I'm a little kid, and I read this story, and it's just so brilliant. It actually made me laugh out loud. And my mom comes in, she goes, what's going on? I'm like, Jesus is cool. He's got a sense of humor. See, I love to scare people. I don't know why. Just since I was a young kid, I've loved to scare people. Anybody else like that? Kind of weird? Jump out? There's something wrong with you and me. We'll talk later. It's weird. I once scared my brother. I got him back. He fainted on the kitchen floor. It was incredible. It's a longer story. He had yogurt in his hand, spilt everywhere. Just as my father pulled up, I got grounded. It was so worth it. But this story to me was pretty cool. Jesus tells the apostles, get on the boat. I'm going to do this real short. You guys get in the boat. I'll meet you on the other side. So they get in the boat. They take off. They're sitting out there. The waves are picking up. And all of a sudden, they become terrified because they think they see a what? A ghost. They're terrified, right? Remember, when miraculous things happen, they don't sit there going, that's super. They're freaked out, okay? But here's what made me laugh. Jesus was God. He knew everything. He'd know they'd be freaked out. So you picture he would just show up alongside the boat and be like, fellas. And they would have been like, oh, get in here. That's crazy. But he stays back far enough watching these guys, and I'm dying. Because I'm picturing them, they're like, ah. Now, if I was Jesus, I would have been like, hey, guys. Ooh. That didn't happen, but I'm just going, that's brilliant. They're scared. And then they have a leader, Peter, who I relate to. I get excited about things and fail immediately. Peter yells out to the Lord, and right after he yells this, he regretted. He goes, Jesus, if it's truly you, command me, and I'll walk out to you. And he's like, stupid, shut up. And Jesus is like, excellent, come to me. So he goes to walk, and Peter, the rock, it's not looking good for him, right? So he takes a step out of the boat. Ladies, you got to understand something about guys. When we have a buddy who's about to do something that could cause him great bodily harm, we don't help him. We place bets to see how badly he gets hurt. And we try to bring everybody down. So, Peter's like, all right, let's go. We're a team, the apostles. And they're like, no, he said, you, Peter the Rock, go. So honestly, in my brain, I picture he's going to walk, and they're all taking bets. They're like, I got $3. He gets 2 steps. Thomas, Judas is like, just push him. I'm like, no, we can't do that. This isn't scriptural. It's just where my brain's going as a little kid reading this story. And Peter starts walking, right? He starts walking. And he's got his eyes on Jesus, and he's walking on water. Somebody once gave me a picture of Jesus walking on the water. Peter walking on the water. And I don't know why, but he had like an Arnold Schwarzenegger chest. His robe is open. He's trudging through the water like this. There's no way that's happening. He's walking like a toddler. He's like, and Jesus is like, come on. He's like, and the waves pick up, hits him in the face, takes his eyes off the Lord. And because he doubts, if you know the story, he falls to the water, drowns, and dies a terrible death. Some of you aren't laughing. You're like, oh. No, he was saved. Moses and the ark came and saved him. And you guys got your scriptures. I've had people taking notes. Oh. No, he doesn't kill our first pope, but he picks him up and he goes, where's your faith? Now, I've heard people say Jesus was so frustrated at him, but I have a hard time believing that because he was the only one who had the courage to get out of the boat. Now, I've heard many different homilies on this about he shouldn't have left the boat because the boat represents the church, but I think Jesus was thrilled to see somebody get out of the boat. And to me, this story reminds me of our church today, of everybody wanting to sit in the pew, but nobody wants to get out of the boat and go for the walk of faith. In America, we don't allow you to get uncomfortable. And I promise you, it's in the uncomfortable where you'll grow in your faith with Jesus, not in the comforts of your home. So when you step out, when you take that step out of the boat, that's when you'll start to go on this great adventure with the Lord. But we make it difficult here in America. See, well, I have to shorten this. I think Jesus is more excited to see us try and fail. It's the parable of the talents. We're just burying stuff. I kept it safe. He's like, you're kidding me? You couldn't even put it in the bank and let it accrue interest? You're that lazy, so lame? That's ridiculous. We have to start accruing some interest in our lives and with our families and go on this adventure with the Lord. But here's the deal. It's impossible to go on an adventure without Jesus. You can go on stupid human ones. You know, you guys, I wish I had time to tell you my whole story, but I'll come to it. God's going to stop time and this will happen, but I'm not going to go late. I promised. You can do this. Lord, help me, okay? Just a side note. I find often when I meet people who struggle with anxiety, depression, fear, not only have they buried a lot of stuff from their past and they've masked it over, but they never deal with it with Jesus. They never keep their eyes on Jesus. They're walking through their life with their eyes on themselves, and that's why they start to sink. My mother I'd be like, Mom, you got to pray. She's like, I pray. I'm like, no, you're worrying. And she's like, that's true. There's a fine line between worrying and praying and giving stuff to God. I'm guilty myself of saying, Lord, I leave these troubles here. And I pick them back up and walk away. God's like, really? That's how little you trust me? Come on, man. Do you believe this, yes or no? I'm going to jump a little bit. Yeah. You see, I eventually started to get interested in this Jesus because I found it cool that he experienced a lot of things I experienced. But then by the time I became a freshman in college, I'd become very proficient at two things, playing the guitar and drinking beer. And I combined them together, and I put an act together, and I started performing, started writing songs, performing, and I started making a lot of money. I started performing in ski resorts. I performed for Billy Joel, Elton John, Robert De Niro. I sang in front of 40,000 people in Times Square in New York City. I was asked about doing a reality show on MTV about my life. It was getting crazy for me. And I left Jesus for Buddhism because it fit my lifestyle then. Because in Buddhism, I don't exist, you don't exist. It's an illusion. It's all an illusion. Therefore, evil doesn't exist. Therefore, I can't be sinning because I'm not even here. That works for a guy who's getting drunk every night and partying. It's like, I'm not really sinning because I'm not even here. It's very convenient. I'm on stage partying, and then this happens to me. I'm like, there's 1,500 people cheering for me in a bar. I'm drinking for free, and everybody likes me. And it feels great when everybody likes you, but Scripture says, beware when all men speak well of you. It means no spine. And I'm on stage, and all of a sudden, I used to wear a cross, but I wasn't really a Christian. This sounds horrible. I used to work out. I was really big, and I wore this shirt, and when I wear the cross, it would go between my pecs and make my chest look bigger, and it looked really cool. And I was like, yeah, my purgatory time, you have no idea, my friends. It's so ridiculous. If I die and you go, he was a missionary, he's with God, I will come back and haunt you and say, pray for me. All of a sudden I'm on stage, door opens from the bar. My happy hour show was during the day, so the light all of a sudden flashes, and everybody in a bar, when it's dark, is like cockroaches. They're like, the light, it burns. And a little Italian priest came in. I used to do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday happy hour show, and people weren't going to church. They were coming to my happy hour show. And this little Italian priest walked in. I'll never forget, my eyes just zoomed in on him. He's like this tall little guy, and he walks to the bar like this to the people. And he walks up to the stage. I look at him. I kid you not. I thought he was requesting a song. I'm like, you want to hear something? He goes, no, come here. I go in, he goes, you should take your cross off. I go, why? He goes, because you're scandalizing the people here. I don't want to judge your soul, but if I was a betting man, I bet if you died right now, you'd go to hell. Have a great day. And I was like, what? See, from my childhood and things of death and father wounds and stuff, I kind of buried those things. And I worked out, got myself strong, and became a musician to make myself powerful. And I have a chapter in my book called Burying the Undead. Undead things don't like to stay buried. They're going to crawl out. They just need an opportunity, a crack in the ground. That priest took a pickaxe and went, boom, put a crack in there. I got home, and I started thinking about the reality of hell and who I was, and I was like, oh, my gosh. I don't know about this. And is there a hell? There could be a hell, I'm not sure. And I remember I was looking, I had a condo on the beach with 4 private beaches, sailboat, powerboat, fishing boat. I was making a ton of money writing songs. And all of a sudden I went like this, is there a hell? What if I died? Would I go to heaven? And I go, I have all this stuff. I'm really not that happy. And all of a sudden I felt this pain in my chest. It started radiating down my left arm. Felt like it was going to my jaw. And my vision started going away. And I was like, I'm going to die. I'm having a heart attack. And these are the 2 thoughts that went through my head. The first one was this. If there's a hell, I'm going there. Secondly, is I failed my wife. Because deep down I knew she was on the search for Jesus, but I pulled her back because I wanted her to stay in the darkness with me. And I fell. And this is important for you to get for the rest of the story to make sense. I didn't die that day. No, seriously. I didn't even have a heart attack. I suffered something called a panic attack. I'd never had a panic attack before. I'm a 6'4" boxer. We don't have panic attacks. I'd never heard of a panic attack. I was in the ground in the fetal position, freaked out because the crack opened up all the wounds I'd been hiding, suppressing everything, and I lost it. Now it turns out people have them a lot. They're really common. Has anybody besides me ever had a panic attack or anxiety in here? Wow, look at all the hands. We'll go outside later and freak out together. It's going to be awesome. Paper bag. 1.5% clonazepam. Here we go. You got a Paxil? Quick, everyone, go. We just bonded right there, man. So I asked 3 questions. This is the title of my book. And guess what? I didn't bring it here on purpose because I already feel bad about asking about Haiti. I can't now solicit a book because I'm like, and that's not all. If you act now, you will also get, let's get into it. But I have a book called The 3 Questions. And these are the questions I told you your kids need to be able to answer. I never had these answered. Nobody could answer them for me, and it was this. Does God exist? If he does, how do you know? Secondly is this. If he exists, who is he? And thirdly, why am I alive? It's amazing how many people in this world haven't a clue about the answers to those questions because there are answers for them, great ones. So I went on the search. Buddhism, looked into that. Hinduism, all these things. And then I wanted to check out this Jesus factor thing. And here's the conclusion I came to. All right, let me ask you a question. Ready? I'm going to test you. You have to answer out loud. Does God love everyone?
Yes.
Even Muslims?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. John the Protestant?
Yes.
No, yes. There's his mom, all right? You bet he does. Of course he does. All right, knowing that God loves us all, does it matter to God what religion you are? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Hear me out. This is important. I'm glad we hear it here. I said we know that God loves everybody. But does it matter to God what religion you are? Yes. Let me prove my point. Father, I'm going to ask you a question, okay? It's not a trick question, okay? I just know you. I can see you here, okay? So they're not a trick question. Somebody you love is dying of thirst. They're in the desert. They come to a table. There's 3 glasses there. They have time to drink one. One's a quarter full with water. One's half full. One's all the way full with water. Remember, this isn't a trick question. They've got to choose one real quick. Which one would you want them to drink? The quarter full, half full, or all the way full? The full one, right? Now let me ask you a question. Is the one that's a quarter full really bad for you? How about half? No, but you want the fullness, right? That's why I'm Catholic. The others are the quarter full, the half full. All religions contain some truth, but Catholicism has the fullness of God's revelation. So my question is this. If God wants to have a relationship, would he want you to be in the religion that teaches most of his truth or the least of his truth? So does it matter to God what religion you are? Yeah, here we go. By the way, Satanism is a religion. It's the hatred of God. Would he want you to be in that religion? So does it matter to God what religion you are? Remember that, okay? Very important teaching moment. It does matter. Otherwise, this was stupid. If it doesn't matter, why did God go through all the trouble to come down, die on a cross, open up the gates of hell, build a priesthood to have this intimacy where we can receive him in the Eucharist? And he's like, that or, well, you can worship the tree. That's cool too. Hug the tree. I'm sorry, that tree will not give you what God can because that's created by God. This is the creator of everything, God himself in the flesh. See, here's the deal. Couple more teaching moments. Ready? Here we go. Here's what went on in my mind. And I'm teaching you this so you can teach your kids and you'll know it yourself. I want to give you a philosophical math problem, okay? This is the stuff that gets some people a little irritated. But it's logic. We're using reason right now, okay? Ready? I need you to answer out loud. Ready? If God is perfection, can he lie? No. Can he teach falsely about who he is? Can he contradict himself? Can human beings lie? Can they teach falsely? So pay attention, ready? You know this, but I'm just going to help solidify it in your hearts and in your mind. All right, ready? Who knows more about God? God or Sean Forrest? Because he's who? Jesus is who? Who knows more about God? Jesus or Sean Forrest? Jesus, because he's who? Was Buddha God? No, in fact, he said there are no gods. Not like a personal God. There's the Vedas, but they don't really matter for anything. He was a human being. Could he have been wrong then? Who knows more about God then? Buddha or God? Jesus is who? Who knows more about God then? Jesus or Buddha? Jesus, because he's who? Muhammad. Who knows more about God? Muhammad or God? Jesus is who? Who knows more about God? Jesus or Muhammad? Because he's who? That's right. Buddha teaches reincarnation. Jesus says heaven or hell. Who's right in that argument? Because when any other religion contradicts the teachings of Jesus in his church, they are what? Oh, say that in public school. Woo, buckle up. Say that in college. How dare you say we're wrong? Yeah, well, you are. Because if Jesus is who he claimed to be, you have to become this faith. Because he's God. And you know what God built? A church. And don't let anybody fool you with that. It's very clear. Jesus built a church. You are a rock, and upon this rock I will build my... Jesus built a church. You bet he did. A religion. So the other thing is this. About love. And how much time? So I'm going to jump into this real quick. So my intellect said, if it is true that Jesus rose from the dead, and that's in my book too, because this is what I spent most of my study on. I needed to know before I could become a Christian, is the evidence overwhelming that Jesus really rose from the dead? And it is. There's no way we have this church unless the dead man got up. It's impossible. There's no way we have a Catholic church, Baptist church, any Christian church unless Jesus rose from the dead. There's no way around it. I've studied it. I needed to know, and no, nothing else, no other explanation makes sense except Jesus rose from the dead. The apostles saw him and they ate with him after he was dead. But now let's go to the heart. I've been doing ministry for a long time, and one of the toughest ministry jobs I ever had was in a place called Sandy Hook in Connecticut. There was a mass shooting there. I've been running their confirmation retreat for 17 years. They asked me the next day to come over in the gymnasium and minister to the parents and the kids there, along with other pastors. We came over there, and a gentleman said this: how can I survive with the death of my child? How can I believe in God? How is there any hope? I want to explain to you what I would have had to have said from the other religions. As a Buddhist, I'd have to say this. If I was going by strict Buddhism and not a twist here that's happened in America trying to Americanize Buddhism, I'd have to say this: sir, the reason you're suffering is because you actually believe your daughter exists. And you think you exist. You're an illusion, sir. When you realize that you're not even here, and you detach yourself from all want, all need, all hope, all desire, finally, sir, you will dissolve and disappear into nothingness. I hope that gives you peace. As a Hindu, I'd have to say, well, sir, obviously she did something bad in another life, and now this is her karma, and she might come back again as a rat, a cat, a bat, a stingray. And she'll just keep working off over and over this endless debt till it's finally paid off somehow, and she gets rid of this idea of self, and her energy joins the energy of everybody else because, sir, you're God, she's God, we're all God. We just don't know it. God has the amnesia, and we'll all finally become one in the bucket of the energy of God. I hope that gives you peace. As a Muslim, if I'm going to go straight from the Quran and the Hadith and the traditions, I'd have to say, well, sir, she's not a Muslim, so it's not looking good. And she's a woman, and the Quran is very clear that hell is full of more women than men. Sorry. As a Christian, here's what I said to him. Sir, I can't give you peace, but here's what I'm going to pray for you. Hold on to Jesus, because I truly believe he died and he rose, and death is not the end. I pray you hold on. I pray you hold on, because I have a feeling when you die, you're going to get ready to see Jesus, and you might want to yell at him, and he's going to go, shh, and he's going to turn his shoulder, and your little girl is going to run into your arms and hug you, and Jesus is going to say, hey, you know I love her more than you. Death has no victory. I'm the Lord of Lords. I'm the resurrection. I'm the life. Death has been swallowed up because he went there first. That's the thing about Jesus that I love. In Haiti, he's the champion of the poor. Why? He was poor. How brilliant for God to come as a poor. Just brilliant. And then to go through that. See, the cross changes everything for us. We find meaning in life because without Jesus, I'm sorry, life doesn't make any sense. But with Jesus, it does, even suffering. And that's the last part I want to go into here. Because Jesus died and rose, we as Christians, when the suffering happens, we can cry with hope, not despair. And I'm going to share a couple of little tragedies in my life with you, not to elicit an emotional response that you'll feel bad for me, but you'll be in awe of God. When I was, my first trip to Haiti 17 years ago, I went to an orphanage. And I was so excited to go there. I brought my guitar because I was like, I'm Sean Forrest, I play the guitar. I'll just save this country by playing my guitar. I got this. And I walked into an orphanage, a little bit bigger than the stage. There were 300 children facing the walls. One kid was so bored, he was hitting his forehead against the wall. And that's when I would go, oh my gosh, this is darker than I ever thought. And I tried to play with the kids, but they wouldn't play because they'd never been picked or held up. Nobody ever played with them. So they were so lethargic. They had no joy in them. They looked at me with what I call dead eyes. And I was like, what am I going to do? Trying to play nothing. And I was like, there's no hope here. And then a little boy got up from across the room and he walked over and he stood in front of me like this. Little kid, four years old. And I go, hey, buddy. And I went to pick him up and the director said, don't touch him. And I said, why? He goes, he's covered with scabies. It's a mite, gets under your skin, leaves fecal matter, and it's very contagious. Then he turned his back over and he had all these open lesions on his back from laying down, bed sores. And he goes, you can't touch him or you'll get sick. And I went like this. Oh man, I pet him on the head from a distance and I started to walk away. And I just felt like God said, really? I'll die on a cross for your sins, but you won't pick me up because you're afraid of a rash. It's one of the most shameful moments of my life, trying to be a follower. And Jesus is like, you don't remember the story your mother gave you about getting out of the boat? Keep your eyes on me. Hey, so you want to just pretend to be a missionary, don't you? And I was like, oh my Lord, forgive me. I knelt down, I picked this kid up, and I hugged him. And he threw his arms around my neck really tight. And he was really strong. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I let go, and he was just dangling. And I started going like this, and he was swinging back and forth, and just for kicks, I went, ding, dong, and all the other kids went like this. He plays with us. And they all ran at me, and I was like, oh no, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my God. And they were jumping on me, and I'm covered in snot, ooze. I'm like, I'm gonna die, this is awesome. Oh, I'll be dead tomorrow, this is great. But I never got sick. And if I had, you know what, that's okay. I live in America, there's a pill for that. Entering into the suffering is where you'll find God. See, but our country won't even let you have a headache. Take a pill quickly. You're hungry? Fast food. You're bored? You got your cell phone. We'll even let you die in peace here. We'll measure right up. You won't feel a thing. And we take away every opportunity to join to the cross because we offer our sufferings up for whatever we want. Lord, I offer up my sufferings right now for every woman who's thinking about aborting her child. See, because of the cross, suffering isn't useless. I don't know why God allows it, but what I do know is that when we enter into it, those are the most powerful moments I've had with God in my life. My father, I played golf with him, doing great, 87 years old. Next day, my brother says, hey, Pop's not doing so well. I brought him to the hospital. I go down there, I'm like, Pop, you okay? He's like, I just don't feel well, Shano. They'd always call me Shano or Bono. And I'm like, yeah, and my dad died 22 hours later from acute onset leukemia. Just killed him like that. But before he died, we made enough phone calls to get, there was 9 of us, 8 brothers, 1 sister, and we all got around his bed. And he was slowly dying. And I'm like, guys, pray. And we're like, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. This kills me. And we're saying stuff like, I love you, Dad. Thank you, Dad, for everything. And we start entering into this. And we're going, Jesus, we trust in you. Thank you, God, for my father. And I'm like, blessing him. We're going, God, we love you. I love you. And I held his hand. I took my mom's hand and I placed it in his hand. I said, pray your husband into the arms of Jesus, Mom. She's like, okay. And we're crying, but praying at the same time. And then his breath went away and he died. Everybody left. I was the last one to leave. I just kept holding the hand of my dad. There's something about the hand. There's something about, all of you know what your father's hand feels like when he holds you or grabs it. Or your mom's, the side of her cheek when you kiss her, what that's like. And I got up and my heart was welling up and I was getting ready to cry. Then all of a sudden I looked and I saw this doctor come walking down the hallway. He was in charge of the whole floor, the ICU. And he comes up to me and he goes, excuse me. And I turned to him and he goes, and he hugs me and he starts crying on my shoulder. I'm like, you okay? And he was like this. In all my years, I have never seen what I've just seen. I've never seen a family honor their father like you just honored your father. And he goes, I haven't talked to my dad in 15 years and I'm calling him today. In the midst of holding my dad and watching him die, I think a family was restored because we entered into it. My wife, I'm giving you killer stories here, and this is for a family here who told me they miscarried a child. I told you my wife and I have lost 12. When my wife was miscarrying our child, our first child, she was in so much pain because her heart saying stay, but her body's saying go, and she battled so hard that she got so ill she turned green. She was getting ready to faint, and I caught her and I brought her over to the bed and I laid her down. Now we're losing our baby right now, and I grabbed the Bible and I opened to the Psalms and I put my hand over her womb and I started reading Psalms to her. And she put her hand on mine and I said, Lord, if we must lose this child, we offer this suffering up for all unborn children. But I beg of you, Lord, if you can give me this pain or filter it through me, Lord, I accept it on behalf of my wife. Then I put my hand on her forehead and my wife stared at me and she looked at me with a look I can't even explain, but then she said this, in my moment of tragedy, you led me to my King. I trust you forever. I fell more deeply in love with my wife and felt the presence of God more deeply in that moment than I ever had through the death of my child. And then the last story. You guys see what I'm saying is, don't be afraid to enter into the pain. You're not alone because you're going to suffer. Some of you are suffering greatly now and people don't even know, but you don't walk alone. You don't walk alone. There's a God saying, hey man, yeah, you're all going to die. Suffering's part of this because it happened to me. But that's what I love about Jesus. He's like, I'm going to go through it first. Nobody suffered more than Jesus. Taking on the sins of the world, being crucified. And here's the crazy thing, you guys. God's outside of time, but just for kicks, could you imagine 1 trillion years from now, we're all up in heaven? Are you really going to care how you died when you're in paradise? Why did you're going to be like, thank you. You won't even remember. God's like, I told you, I got you. My wife gets pregnant again. She makes it to 3 months, which is great because the babies usually die between 3 and 6 months. We get to 6 months. We get to 9 months. She goes into labor. And we're like, oh my gosh, and we name this child William. We call him Liam, the conqueror. And she's like, I'm in labor. I'm like, this is going to happen. We go into the hospital, and we had a midwife named Cynthia, and I'm like, Joel, we're gonna have a child. We'd lost so many, and we're like, wow. And to that family out there, name your child and pray for your child and ask your child to pray for you. But name your child, make sure you do, and ask the Blessed Mother to hold them, and I promise you my children will be playing with your child, and we're all gonna have some fun when we meet in heaven. To that family out there, enter into it together, cry together, grieve together, but grieve with hope. My son's coming, and then unfortunately, the bells start going off, and he starts losing his oxygen, and Cindy goes, stop pushing, and my wife's like, no, and I'm like, God, not now, not in 9 months, please, no. So I went over to my wife, and I grabbed her face, and I go, babe, give to God what is God's. I will be with you. You need to just relax. What happened is the umbilical cord had wrapped around Liam's neck, and while she was pushing, it was strangling him. And I said, babe, you have to let go. And this courageous woman just went, which allowed Cynthia to be able to reach up and grab the umbilical cord and take it around his neck. And she goes, okay, he's fine. And we're like, what? She's like, yeah, he's fine. Push. I'm like, push. She was like, okay. And my wife's wicked strong. And she starts to push, and I'm like, oh man, this is going to happen. And I don't know what got into me, but I've been longing for so long to hold a child that's alive and lift up my shirt and feel his heart against my heart. You know that baby skin against your skin? I just long so hard. So I pushed Cynthia out of the way. True story. And I'm like, I got this. My wife's like, no, you don't. Move aside. I'm like, I can do this. You just catch. She's like, there's more to it. So she takes her hip and pushes me out of the way. I'm like, okay. But as his head started to come out, I touched him. I remember seeing his eyes. He's looking around. I'm like, Joel, I see his eyes. He's right here. I push. My wife's so strong. She pushes. She hip checks me, rolls the baby out, and I go, give me my son. She's like, in a minute. I go, give my son. She goes, he's covered with goop. I go, I love the goop. Give me my kid. I was afraid he was going to die before he was cleaned up and brought to my arms. I was like, please just let me hold him while his heart's beating. She's like, he's going to be okay. She cleans him up, and then she brings him to my wife because apparently she did more work than I did. And she's holding him, kissing, and she sees me, and she goes, take your son. And I went like this. I put my arms around him and made a cage. No earthly force could have removed my arms from this child. And I just got him. And then you'll understand this if you have children. I breathed him in. I breathed his hair, and I lifted up my shirt, and I put his heart there, and I just started to get so excited. This is a true story. You may have heard other speakers say this, but they stole it from me. I walked out into the nurse's station. I'm not kidding. And I took my kid. I don't know why anybody would do this. And I pulled a Lion King with my kid. And I go, look at my son. And everybody's like, oh, put him down. I'm like, I've got a son. They're like, he's beautiful. I'm like, yes, he is beautiful. And they're like, oh, that's wonderful. I'm like, look at him. They're like, he's beautiful. I'm like, look at him. They're like, you showed us. I'm like, look again. This kid's incredible. Now look at me. I want you all to look at me. Look at me right now. Don't look away. All my son had done for me that day was pee on me. Hear me out. There's not one thing my son had done for me that day but pee on me. And do you know why I love my son? Not because of the things he did for me. I loved him because he was mine. That's how God feels about each and every one of us infinitely more. There's nothing you will ever do that make God love you. He just already does. There's a lady in here right now who is so uptight. She's like, I got to make sure I show up for this, and I got to help the poor, and I got to make sure I do it, and I just want to be there when you meet Jesus. It's going to be hysterical because you're going to come up to Jesus, and he's going to go, and you're going to go, wait, I helped sing in the choir, and he's going to go, yes, but you go, wait, I did collections, and he's going to go, stop, and you're going to go, what? And he's going to go, can I hold you? And you're going to go, I'm covered with goop. And he's going to say, I love the goop. Come here. And God's going to Lion King you. It's not the things you do. In a world that tells you have to earn your degree, earn this, earn your love, your spot on the team, Jesus is like, yeah, that's not my game. I just love you, man. You're the closest thing to my heart. And man, if people would let down their hearts and receive that, do you know how much healing would go on? That's when violence ends. That's when suicide rates drops. That's when people stop turning to drugs because they're like, man, I've got this God who's crazy about me. And I'm finally healing because I let my guard down because God loved me first. He chased me. He saw me return and he chased me. I was repenting and he's like, just get the guy a robe. That's the God we need to tell the world about. That's why I left all these other philosophies of dead people whose skulls are still in the sand, because I wanted to follow the living God who died and rose and gave us a church. And guess what? He's about to come out here now in the Eucharist. We get to be in the presence of such a humble God that he comes to us in the monstrance, in the Eucharist, so that we can adore him. And remember, if you're not feeling anything, guess what? When you sit in front of a television, you don't feel the radiation penetrating your brain, but it's happening. Same thing's happening here. Don't worry about feelings. Feelings deceive. Be present with God. I'm going to step away. Don't clap for me. Just ponder on the words and think the creator of the universe is about to come out here to be present with you so that you can take everything you've learned today, drop your guard, and let him be your God and do what he wants to do in your life, but you got to invite him in. You got to let this God into your heart and drop your walls, your fears, and all those things. Let me get out of the way so we can bring the great God of all gods out here to be in our presence.